Malaysia Airlines Flight 17. On July 17, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 took off from Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport heading for Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It was a routine flight, carrying 283 passengers and 15 crew members. Some were on vacation, others were visiting family, and many were just passing through on their way to different parts of Asia. The plane, a Boeing 777-200ER, was in great condition, and the journey was supposed to take about 11.5 hours. At 33,000 feet over eastern Ukraine, MH17 was flying along a common route used by many airlines. But on the ground, a war was raging between Ukrainian forces and pro-Russian separatists. Something went terribly wrong. A massive explosion tore through the cockpit, instantly breaking the front of the plane apart. The sudden decompression knocked out anyone nearby, and within moments, the aircraft started falling apart. Wreckage and bodies fell over a 20-square-mile area near Saratov, Ukraine. People on the ground saw the horrifying scene, with debris and human remains raining down. Investigators worked fast to find out what happened. Experts confirmed that MH17 was shot down by a Buk missile, which exploded near the cockpit, killing the pilots instantly and tearing the plane apart. The missile launcher was tracked back to Russia's 53rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade and had been secretly moved into Ukraine, where pro-Russian separatists fired it, likely by mistake. After the attack, the launcher was quickly returned to Russia. In 2022, after years of legal proceedings, a Dutch court convicted 3 men, 2 Russian and 1 Ukrainian, of murder and obscenity, sentencing them to life in prison. The Russian government denied involvement, but overwhelming evidence confirmed that the missile system was Russian-supplied and that the separatist fighters were responsible for firing it. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, also known as MH370, was a regular flight from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia to Beijing, China, on March 8, 2014. It took off just after midnight with 239 people on board, 227 passengers, and 12 crew members. The flight was supposed to take about 6 hours, and most of the passengers were Chinese citizens. Everything seemed normal at first, but about 40 minutes after takeoff, something strange happened. But then about a few minutes into the flight, MH370's transponder stopped working, and the plane vanished from air traffic control radar. However, military radar picked it up taking a sharp turn west, flying back over Malaysia and toward the Indian Ocean. Then it disappeared completely. Despite years of searching, the main wreckage has never been found, making this one of the biggest mysteries in aviation history. Some answers did come later. In 2015 and 2016, pieces of the plane washed up on beaches in Africa and islands in the Indian Ocean, suggesting it crashed somewhere in the southern Indian Ocean. A 2018 investigation found that someone likely changed the plane's course on purpose, but it couldn't say who or why. Many theories have emerged: hijacking, pilot involvement, mechanical failure, but there's no solid proof of what really happened. Now, a new search is about to begin. In early 2025, a company called Ocean Infinity will use advanced underwater drones to scan the ocean floor in a 2,200 square mile area. They're operating under the no find, no fee deal, meaning they'll only get paid up to $70 million if they locate the wreckage. After all these years, MH370 remains an unsolved mystery, and families of those on board are still waiting for answers. Germanwings Flight 9525. Germanwings Flight 9525 was a regular flight from Barcelona, Spain to Düsseldorf, Germany on March 24, 2015. It departed with 150 people on board, including 144 passengers and 6 crew members. The journey was expected to take about 90 minutes, but halfway through the climb, something went terribly wrong. As the plane reached 38,000 feet, the captain stepped out of the cockpit, likely for a short break. That's when the co-pilot, Andreas Lubitz, locked the door from the inside and wouldn't let him back in. Air traffic controllers tried to reach the plane, but Lubitz didn't respond. The captain desperately tried to open the door, but the cockpit security rules made it impossible. For the next 10 minutes, the plane kept descending, heading straight for the French Alps. At 10:41 a.m., it crashed near a remote mountain area about 60 miles northwest of Nice, killing everyone on board. Investigators later found that Lubitz had struggled with severe depression and had been ruled unfit to work by his doctor just before the flight, but he never told his airline. The crash was ruled a deliberate act, sparking serious discussions about mental health screenings for pilots and stronger safety measures in cockpits. Metrojet Flight 9268. Metrojet Flight 9268 was a charter flight operated by Metrojet, a Russian airline. On October 31, 2015, it took off from Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt early in the morning, heading to St. Petersburg, Russia. There were 224 people on board, 217 passengers, including 25 children and 7 crew members. Most of the passengers were Russian tourists flying home after their vacations. Just 23 minutes after takeoff, while cruising at 31,000 feet, the plane suddenly disappeared from radar. Flight data showed strange altitude changes before it vanished. Wreckage was later found scattered across a large area in the Sinai Peninsula, showing that the plane had broken apart midair. Sadly, no one survived. Investigators from Russia, Egypt, and Airbus looked into the crash. On November 17, 2015, Russian officials confirmed that a bomb had exploded on board, causing the plane to break apart. They found traces of explosives in the wreckage and determined that the blast was equivalent to 1 kilogram of TNT. A group linked to ISIS later claimed responsibility, saying it was in retaliation for Russian military actions in Syria. In response, Russia announced a $50 million reward for information about the attackers. This tragedy raised serious concerns about airport security, especially in areas where terrorist threats are high. Many countries reviewed and strengthened their security procedures to prevent similar attacks in the future. EgyptAir Flight 804. On May 19, 2016, EgyptAir Flight 804 took off from Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport, heading to Cairo, Egypt. It was a routine overnight flight, carrying 66 people, 56 passengers from different countries including Egypt, France, and Canada, along with 10 crew members. About 2 hours and 40 minutes into the flight, while cruising at 37,000 feet over the Mediterranean Sea, the plane suddenly vanished from radar. There were no distress signals. Greek air traffic controllers later reported that the aircraft made sharp turns, 90 degrees left, then 360 degrees right, before dropping quickly. Soon after, debris and human remains were found in the sea, about 180 miles north of Alexandria, Egypt. Sadly, there were no survivors. The investigation involved experts from Egypt, France, and other international agencies. Early data from the aircraft system showed smoke in the lavatory and avionics bay just before the crash, hinting at a possible in-flight fire. In December 2016, Egyptian officials claimed they found traces of explosives on the victims, suggesting terrorism. However, French investigators disagreed, saying there was no evidence of a bomb. In April 2022, a new report suggested that a cockpit fire may have caused the crash. Investigators believe that a lit cigarette combined with an oxygen leak from a faulty oxygen mask could have sparked the fire. Smoking in the cockpit was reportedly common among Egyptian pilots at the time. Even today, experts still debate if it was really an accident or something more sinister. Asiana Airlines Flight 214. On July 6, 2013, Asiana Airlines Flight 214 took off from Incheon International Airport in South Korea, heading to San Francisco International Airport in the United States. It was a routine trans-Pacific flight, carrying 307 people, 291 passengers, and 16 crew members including both business and leisure travelers. As the Boeing 777-200ER approached San Francisco, something went terribly wrong. During landing, the plane's main landing gear and tail struck the seawall just before the runway. The impact ripped off the tail, causing the aircraft to spin out of control before crashing off the runway. A fire broke out, mainly on the right side of the plane. Tragically, 3 passengers lost their lives, and 187 others were injured, 49 of them seriously. The National Transportation Safety Board investigated the crash and found that the pilots mismanaged the landing. The plane was flying too low and too slow, partly because the autothrottle system wasn't properly engaged. By the time the crew realized the danger, it was too late to fix it. Investigators also pointed out the problems with Asiana Airlines' pilot training. The pilots weren't fully trained to handle automated flight systems, which may have confused them during landing. The NTSB stressed the importance of better training, so pilots can fully understand and control the aircraft's automation, especially during critical moments like landing. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302. On March 10, 2019, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 took off from Addis Ababa Bole International Airport, heading to Jomo Kenyatta International Airport in Nairobi, Kenya. The flight was operated using a Boeing 737 MAX 8 and carried 157 people, 149 passengers, and 8 crew members. Among them were business travelers, tourists, and United Nations personnel. Just 6 minutes after takeoff, the plane began to fly erratically, with sudden altitude changes and unusually high speed. Then, the aircraft's nose pitched downward. Despite the pilots' desperate attempts to pull up, the plane crashed near Bishoftu, about 40 miles southeast of Addis Ababa. Sadly, no one survived. Investigators from Ethiopia, the US, and France analyzed the flight data and cockpit voice recordings. The findings pointed to a failure in the angle of attack sensor, which fed wrong data to an automated system called MCAS, designed to prevent stalls. Instead, MCAS repeatedly forced the nose down, overriding the pilots' commands. This was eerily similar to the Lion Air Flight 610 crash just 5 months earlier. In December 2022, Ethiopian authorities confirmed that MCAS was the direct cause of the crash, noting that the pilots followed all Boeing's recommended procedures but still couldn't regain control. The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board agreed, but added that the faulty AOA sensors may have been damaged by a bird strike, something the final report did not mention. UPS Airlines Flight 1354. On August 14, 2013, UPS Airlines Flight 1354 was on a routine overnight cargo flight from Louisville, Kentucky to Birmingham, Alabama. The aircraft, an Airbus A300-600F, was part of UPS Logistics Network, carrying freight across the country. The flight crew included 58-year-old Captain Chieda Beal Jr. and 37-year-old First Officer Shonda Fanning. While approaching runway 18 in Birmingham, the aircraft descended too low, missing its intended glide path. The pilots, using a non-precision approach without vertical guidance, failed to notice their dangerously low altitude. Moments later, the plane clipped trees and crashed into a hilly terrain. About a mile from the runway, the aircraft exploded upon impact, killing both crew members. Thankfully, as a cargo flight, there were no passengers on board. The NTSB investigation found that pilot fatigue played a key role in the crash. The crew had not rested properly before their shift, likely due to circadian rhythm disruption. Investigators also noted that the pilots didn't monitor their altitude correctly, leading to a loss of situational awareness. Adding to the challenge, runway 18 lacked a precision approach system, making it even harder to land safely in the pre-dawn darkness. Saratov Airlines Flight 703. On February 11, 2018, Saratov Airlines Flight 703 took off from Moscow's Domodedovo Airport, heading to Orsk, a city near the Kazakhstan border. The plane, an Antonov An-148-100B, had 65 passengers and 6 crew members on board. But just 6 minutes into the flight, something went terribly wrong. The plane had climbed to 19,400 feet at 230 miles per hour, but then it suddenly started losing altitude fast. Witnesses saw it engulfed in flames as it crashed near the villages of Argonovo and Stepanovskoye. Sadly, everyone on board was killed. Investigators quickly got to work. The Interstate Aviation Committee recovered the black boxes the next day. What they found was alarming. The pilot's tube heaters, which stopped airspeed sensors from freezing, had never been turned on. Because of this, the sensors froze up, feeding the pilots conflicting speed readings. One indicator showed the plane speeding up, another showed it slowing down, and a third showed nothing at all. With no clear idea of how fast they were going, the pilots lost control, and the plane went down. The final report, released on June 27, 2019, confirmed the cause. The crew's incorrect reaction to faulty airspeed readings led to the crash, but that wasn't the only issue. Saratov Airlines also had major safety failures, including poor risk management and weak crew training. After the crash, the airline grounded all An-148 planes, but the problem didn't stop there. Further inspection found more violations, and on June 1, 2018, Saratov Airlines lost its operating license, shutting it down for good.